We're going to now start the topic indices. Before we start, we need to just clarify a few terms. So the big number at the bottom, that's called the base, and the power, or the small number, is called the index, or sometimes the power or exponent. Now, there are 7 index laws we need to learn, and in this short series of videos, we'll go through them one at a time and build up the skills as we go through. We'll start off with the first law, which involves multiplication of indices. So when I multiply indices that have the same base, and what I mean by that is that's a base of x and a base of x, then what I do is I keep the base the same, but I have to add together the two index numbers. So to give an example of that, if I have, say for instance, x squared multiplied by x cubed, and I think about what that looks like, x squared would be x times x, and x cubed would be x times x times x. So here I've got x squared, and here I've got x cubed, and when I multiply them together I get x times x times x times x times x, in other words x to the power of 5. So we'll do some examples now using this law here, and we'll keep the law at the top so we can refer to it. Now here, x cubed times x to the 4, first thing is they have the same base of x, so my answer will also have a base of x, and because I'm multiplying these indices together, I'm using this law here, which tells me to take the two index numbers and add them together. So 3 plus 4 would give me a power of 7, so x to the power of 7. This question is similar, but we have some numbers at the front here, so the 3x squared and the 5x to the 6. We're going to deal with this part by part. We're going to take these numbers at the front, the 3, and multiply by the 5. That's going to give us 15. And then we're going to treat the x squared times x to the 6 the same way we did this question over here. So both have the same base of x, so it's going to have an x as my base, and then I'm going to multiply these together, which means I'm going to add together the two index numbers. So 2 plus 6 will be 8. On a question like this, the only difference here for part C is we have a negative number. So we're going to do the same thing as we normally do. We're going to look at the signs first. I've got negative times positive will give me a negative answer. And then I'm going to look at the number part. 2 times 7 would be 14. And then again, we've got the same base here, x. So x cubed times x to the 8 is going to have a base of x. And we're going to take the 3 and the 8 and add them together to give us 11. Remember, that's the rule we're dealing with. If we multiply indices, we take the two index numbers and we simply add them together. Now, one of the things we need to be really careful of when we go through these is negative numbers. Here you'll notice we've got x to the negative 4 times x to the power of 9. But this power here is negative. Now, when we multiply these two together, we still apply the same rule. In other words, we still add together these two numbers. It just becomes a little bit more complicated because it's a negative number. So the answer will have x as a base, and then we're going to do negative 4 plus 9. If we start at negative 4 and we add on 9, that will take us up to positive 5, so it becomes x to the power of 5. I'm going to go into a couple of harder examples here. Occasionally when you're multiplying indices together, you'll see up at the top here we have fractions as our index numbers. So we're going to still do the same thing, but we might take a little bit of extra work in at the sides so as not to crowd it in. So x to the 2/3 times x to the 4/5. So both have a base of x, so the answer is going to have a base of x. What I then need to do is work out what 2/3 plus 4/5 is. Now I'm not going to do the working for it in here. What I'd probably do in this situation is put a dotted line down the side and do that as a separate piece of working. So 2/3 plus 4/5 here. Now, when I want to add fractions, I have to have the same denominator. Now, these have different denominators, so I need to find the lowest common multiple of 3 and 5, which is 15. So I'm going to set up the new fractions underneath, which will now both have a denominator of 15. I then ask myself, what do I multiply 3 by to get 15? I'll have to multiply it by 5, so multiply the top by 5 as well. So 2 5s are 10. And then what do I multiply the 5 by to turn it into 15? Well, I'll have to multiply that by 3. So because I've multiplied the bottom by 3, I'm going to multiply the top by 3 as well. So 4 times 3 gives me 12. I can then add the two of these together. 10 plus 12 is 22. So that gives me 22/15, which is the power that I'm going to put in my final answer. Okay, so because I want to add these two together, and that's not something I would do in my head, I'm going to always kind of show an extra piece of working over at the side and then put my final answer in here. Now, because we can multiply indices now, we can also apply that to multiplying out brackets. So multiplying out brackets is done in the normal way. So we start off with this 3x to the 4 outside the bracket. It's going to first of all multiply this. So 3 times the hidden one here, that's going to be 3. And then x to the 4 times x to the 6 will be x to the 4 plus 6, or x to the 10. Okay, so that's our multiplying our bracket. We've multiplied the first term here. We're then going to draw the line and multiply the second term. So this 3x to the 4 multiplied by negative 2x to the negative 1. So let's start off with the 3 times negative 2. That's going to give me negative 6. And then I've got x to the 4 times x to the negative 1. So it's going to have a base of x here, so x. And I'm going to add the indices, so 4 plus negative 1. Now again, be careful with the negatives here. Remember, 4 plus negative 1 is just 4 take away 1, which is 3. Okay, so that becomes 6x cubed in this space here. And that's it, fully multiplied out. Now, bearing that in mind, what we've got here is we've got 5 questions for you to try yourself. I've left the lot up at the top so you can refer to it. Try the 5 questions, and then when you're ready, press play. Alternatively, try them one at a time and just press play and watch the solution to the one before starting the next one. So I'll quickly go over these then. First one here, we have x to the 6 times x to the 7. So the base is going to be x because the base is the same. And 6 plus 7 is going to give us 13, so x to the 13. The next question here, we're going to do our 2 times 3 to give me 6. And then we're going to multiply x to the 5 times x to the 11. So we're going to add together our 5 and 11 to give us x to the power of 16. Next question, we have 5x to the 8 times x to the negative 3. Bear in mind there's a little hidden 1 here, so if you're unsure you can just pop that in there. And then we can go through this step by step. So 5 times 1 is just 5. And x to the 8 times x to the negative 3, we're going to be putting in our base of x, and then we're going to be adding together 8 and negative 3. Now be careful again with the negatives. 8 plus 3 would be 11, but 8 plus negative 3 is basically 8 take away 3, so that's going to be 5, and that's that fully simplified. This one here, again, x to the 3/4 times x to the half, so the answer is going to be x to the power of something, but I need to add together these two. Now, because they don't have a common denominator, and I can't do that mentally, remember what we said, we're going to just very quickly do a bit of working down the side and write out the 3/4 plus a half here. Now, a common denominator here would be 4, and we've not changed the bottom, so I'm not going to change the top. And for this one, I've doubled the bottom, so I need to double the top. And then I can add them together to get 5 over 4. And that'll be the index on my answer over here. So x to the power of 5 over 4. The last one here, we're going to multiply out this bracket. So we're going to start off by doing x squared times x to the 4. Remember, we're multiplying here. So we're going to add together the index numbers. So that's going to give us x to the power of 6. And then x squared times negative 3. Well, that's just negative 3 times x squared, or negative 3x squared. And that's that fully multiplied out.